There's a truth about twin flames that challenges everything you've been told about spiritual relationships. It's a truth patriarchal society has tried to hide for centuries. Yet Carl Jung uncovered it through his studies on the animus, the feminine and masculine psyche, and how two souls consciously recognize and unite. In the twin flame journey, it is always the feminine energy that determines whether union occurs. By feminine, I don't necessarily mean the physical woman, but the feminine principle present in every twin soul connection, regardless of the genders of the bodies involved. Jung realized what ancient mystics already knew, yet which has been largely erased from modern understanding. The feminine is the original creative force. She chooses, allows, or denies manifestation. The masculine, although appearing active on the surface, is actually reactive. He reflects, adapts, and responds to the energy created by the feminine. This is a cosmic law as fundamental as gravity. The feminine generates the magnetic field, and the masculine aligns to it. This has always been true and will remain so. The problem is that many people, especially those with dominant feminine energy, don't understand this. They've been conditioned to believe they must wait, chase, persuade, or prove their love. Society teaches that love requires effort, sacrifice, and the need to fight for the one you desire. This inversion of energetic roles prevents millions of twin flames from consciously uniting. It fuels the endless runner and chaser cycles, where one soul pursues while the other withdraws. If you're watching this, it's no accident. Your soul knows you need to hear this because perhaps you are attempting to force a union through masculine energy when you should be embracing feminine energy. Today, I'll explain why the feminine must move first in the final stage of the twin flame journey. How Jung discovered this through his work on individuation, and most importantly, how to recognize if you're operating in the correct energy or unconsciously sabotaging your union by using the wrong polarity. Stay until the end, and you'll uncover the best-kept secret of twin flames. Sometimes, you don't need to do anything except stop doing everything. First, you need to understand why Jung reached this conclusion and why it contradicts everything society teaches about love. Jung dedicated decades studying the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine principles within every human being, regardless of physical gender. Through this work, he discovered something that transformed his understanding of how souls connect. In any true relationship, there's always a feminine pole and a masculine pole, each with distinct energetic roles. These roles cannot be reversed without creating imbalance. The feminine principle, Jung explained, is receptive but not passive, choosing but not chasing. She is magnetic, not aggressive, like the earth deciding which seeds it will nourish. The earth does not chase the seeds. It simply provides conditions for growth. When conditions are right, seeds naturally turn toward it and thrive. The masculine principle, in contrast, is directed, focused, and penetrating, like the sun shining continuously. The sun doesn't chase acceptance, it simply radiates its light. When the earth is ready, it receives the sun's energy naturally. Jung observed that when these energies function in harmony, attraction flows effortlessly. But when roles are reversed, when the feminine pursues and the masculine resists, the connection becomes forced, imbalanced, and often fails, or results in codependency. Many people confuse energetic polarity with physical gender. They assume femininity means submission and masculinity means dominance. Jung clarified that it is about function, not power. The feminine defines the magnetic field. The masculine responds to it. In twin flame dynamics, one soul carries more feminine energy, the other more masculine energy, regardless of physical bodies. The conscious union only occurs when each soul embraces its natural polarity. Modern culture has distorted this order. Misinterpreted feminism and patriarchal norms teach women to chase and conquer, while men become passive and receptive. This reversal has left generations unable to relate in an energetically balanced way. With twin flames, this confusion is even more damaging because these connections operate at high, subtle frequencies. Imbalances can cause resistance lasting years, decades, or even lifetimes. Jung noticed that lasting relationships were always those where each person honored their energetic role. Those in cycles of conflict or separation were the ones where polarities were reversed. Specifically for twin flames, he found that the soul carrying more feminine energy determines whether union occurs. Gender, social strength, and/or appearance is irrelevant. Energetically, the feminine has the final say. Here's what may seem controversial, but is well documented by Jung. When the feminine pursues or tries to convince, the masculine instinctively pulls away, not out of cruelty, but because the magnetic field feels reversed. When the feminine embraces her sovereignty, chooses herself, and radiates authentic love without pursuing, the masculine is naturally drawn, like a bee to nectar or a river to the ocean. This is not manipulation. It's an energetic law as natural as breathing. Understanding and applying this law changes everything. The twin flame dynamic shifts because you're now flowing with natural energy instead of fighting against it. To apply it, you must first identify your polarity, which isn't always obvious. Jung developed a method for recognizing energetic roles by observing how each person feels and reacts in the connection, rather than focusing on external actions. There are clear signs of feminine energy in a twin flame connection. If you carry the feminine, your attraction is magnetic and selective. You feel total resonance with your twin flame, as if your entire being recognizes them. You may feel an urge to merge or dissolve boundaries, and distance from them may feel like a part of you is missing. You might idealize them or feel compelled to care for or save them. Crucially, these impulses do not mean you should act on them. They indicate you are confusing your natural energy with socially conditioned behaviors. The key is to honor your role, remain sovereign, and radiate your authentic energy. Then the union unfolds naturally. The true feminine does not chase, attempt to save, or abandon herself to win over the other. She establishes herself in her own completeness, and from that place of integrity, allows or denies the masculine's approach. Like a rose that simply blooms in its natural beauty, letting bees come to it freely. If you are the masculine pole in the dynamic, your attraction is likely more focused, direct, like a laser aimed at a particular person. You may feel certainty about them being the one, even when their actions seem inconsistent or confusing. You might also feel impulses to protect, provide stability, and create space for them to flourish. As the masculine, you can maintain your individuality even while deeply connected. You can love intensely without losing your sense of self. When the feminine pulls away or creates turbulence, you may feel unsettled, but not destroyed. You retain a stable emotional foundation amid relational ups and downs. Jung observed that the true masculine naturally responds to the feminine's energetic state. When she is sovereign and radiant in her own truth, he feels drawn, compelled to approach, and offer his love. But if she is needy or trying to convince him, he instinctively retreats, not out of lack of love, but because the energy feels reversed. This responsiveness is not a flaw or cruelty. It is the masculine's natural energetic function, like a compass always pointing toward magnetic north. He aligns with the feminine, radiating authentic light. If she chases him, magnetic north seems to shift, and the compass cannot find stable direction. This brings us to the key principle: why the feminine must move first in the final stage of the twin flame journey. Moving first does not mean pursuing or conquering. It means turning inward and moving in your own direction. Jung found that this stage begins when the feminine consciously chooses herself as the primary source of love, completeness, and fulfillment. Not as a strategy to win the masculine, but as an authentic act of self-love and sovereignty. When the feminine stops abandoning herself emotionally, ceases shaping herself to meet perceived expectations, and no longer sacrifices her truth to maintain the connection, something remarkable happens energetically. She radiates a new frequency, one of conscious choice instead of desperate need, abundance instead of lack. The masculine, responsive to this energy, immediately senses the shift. It is as if a light has turned on. She becomes magnetic in a way that was impossible while pursuing him. Jung documented numerous cases where individuals in obsessive twin flame dynamics transformed their relationships simply by changing their connection to themselves, not the other person. One patient, who spent 2 years trying to win her twin flame, sacrificed her plans, opinions, friendships, and personal interests to gain his attention. The more she chased, the more he withdrew. After months of therapy, she learned to prioritize her own growth and sovereignty. Within weeks of choosing herself first, he approached her with genuine interest and consistent behavior. Yet crucially, she no longer needed him desperately. She could consciously choose to be with him or not. This is the central paradox of twin flames. You attract consciously only what you do not desperately need. Needing someone to feel complete emits a frequency of lack that repels what you most desire. Becoming complete independently creates a frequency of abundance that naturally attracts aligned experiences and people. Jung called this individuation, becoming a fully integrated individual who does not rely on others for wholeness. He found that individuation is essential for conscious, healthy relationships, particularly soul-level connections like twin flames. When the feminine stops defining herself through the masculine's responses and starts defining herself through her internal truth, she becomes naturally attractive, not through seduction or strategy, but through authentic integrity. The masculine who once retreated from need now feels drawn to choice and sovereignty. He can approach without being pulled into emotional dependency and offer love freely. It is important to note, choosing oneself first does not make the feminine selfish or indifferent. It enables mature love, love from abundance rather than lack. Mature love gives freely, celebrates individuality, and does not seek to mold the other to fill personal voids. Such love is possible only when you are already complete and capable of self-sufficiency. Jung observed that when two individuated people relate, each complete within themselves, they create the union of opposites, not a fusion of identities, but a synthesis of complementary integrities. This is the ultimate goal of the twin flame journey. Not finding someone to complete you, but connecting with someone already complete and consciously creating something greater together, like two skilled artists collaborating on a masterpiece. To reach this point, the feminine must initiate by choosing herself. This choice is internal and energetic, shifting focus, self-love, and priorities. Practically, this means stopping behaviors aimed at winning or controlling the masculine's attention. Stop modifying yourself to elicit responses. Stop overanalyzing words and gestures. Redirect that energy inward. Ask not what he wants from you, but what you want from life. How can you live authentically and fully? Reconnect with hobbies, friends, personal goals, and emotional or spiritual growth. The goal is not to fake indifference or provoke jealousy, but to genuinely reclaim your life, dreams, and identity. Jung found that when this genuine shift occurs, the energetic field automatically changes. The feminine stops radiating need and begins radiating choice and abundance. The masculine, if truly your twin flame, senses this immediately. He perceives the transformation intuitively, finding her more magnetic and desirable, not because of effort, but because she embodies it naturally. When he approaches, it is vital to maintain your sovereignty. Do not revert to old patterns of self-abandonment. Continue prioritizing your completeness and consciously choose how much of yourself to share. Jung emphasized that individuation is ongoing. In twin flame dynamics, this means the feminine continues to uphold her individual sovereignty even after union, remaining a complete person who chooses to share life with another complete person. Many women complete the initial work of individuation and attract their twin flames back, but then make the mistake of falling into old codependent patterns once the relationship stabilizes. When this happens, the imbalance returns, and the masculine often withdraws again. The feminine's sovereignty is not a temporary tactic to win the masculine. It's a lifestyle, an existential posture that must be sustained throughout the relationship. It forms the foundation for a conscious union that can endure over time. When the feminine consistently maintains her sovereignty, loving without losing herself, connecting without abandoning herself, surrendering without erasing herself, she creates ideal energetic conditions for the masculine to also express himself authentically. The masculine can only operate fully when he is not pressured to fill emotional voids or save someone from their own existential gaps. When both partners are grounded in their sovereignty, complete individuals who consciously choose to build together, they achieve what Jung considered the highest form of human relationship. A conscious partnership between two individuated souls recognizing each other as complementary aspects of the same cosmic essence. This is the true twin flame union. Not a fusion where identities dissolve, but a synthesis where two wholes harmonize to create something greater than the sum of their parts, like two finely tuned instruments creating a symphony that neither could produce alone. Jung studied these dynamics for decades and arrived at a conclusion few accept. True love is not about mutual need, but mutual choice. It's not about two halves completing each other, but two integrities celebrating each other. It's not about finding someone to fill your voids, but finding someone who has already filled their own and wishes to co-create shared abundance. To reach conscious love and authentic choice, the feminine must take the first step, choosing herself as the primary source of completeness and happiness. She must establish emotional and spiritual sovereignty, becoming magnetic through authenticity rather than pursuit. When the feminine truly moves first in her own direction, the masculine naturally moves toward her, not out of obligation or manipulation, but through authentic attraction. He feels drawn to participate in something abundant and beautiful, rather than pressured to fill someone else's existential lack. This is the difference between forced and conscious union. Forced union occurs when at least one person seeks to fill internal voids through another. Conscious union happens when both have filled their own voids and consciously choose to co-create abundance. If you recognized in this video that you've been operating in the wrong energy, pursuing when you should be pursued, or abandoning yourself when you should be choosing yourself, You now hold one of the most valuable insights about twin flames. You have the knowledge to transform your connections dynamic entirely. But this transformation must be authentic. You cannot fake sovereignty to manipulate the masculine. You must genuinely choose yourself and establish your completeness. Jungian emphasized that this is one of the most challenging human tasks. Stop seeking external validation and start validating yourself. Stop trying to complete yourself through others and begin completing yourself independently. Stop loving from lack. Love from abundance. When you achieve this sovereignty, you do more than transform your twin flame connection. You transform all relationships. You become naturally magnetic, not for one person, but for all experiences and people aligned with your elevated frequency. If that person is truly your twin flame, they cannot resist this energy. They will feel drawn to you irresistibly because you are finally radiating your authentic essence rather than need disguised as love. Even if they do not approach, even if union does not happen as hoped, you gain something far more valuable: yourself. You discover your completeness and learn to love yourself genuinely and unconditionally. A self-complete person can love others maturely, consciously, and from abundance. They can create connections based on choice, not need, abundance, not lack. Jung called this the ultimate human achievement, becoming a complete, integrated individual capable of loving without losing oneself, connecting without abandoning oneself, and surrendering without erasing oneself. When you reach this state of individuation, you naturally attract people and experiences operating at the same level of consciousness and maturity. If you followed this journey and felt it resonate deeply, I want to share something that can accelerate your transformation. I created 2 exclusive resources based on Jung's teachings on individuation and conscious relationships. The first is 21 Days of Transformation with Carl Jung, a practical guide with exercises for 21 days to integrate your shadow, engage with your unconscious, and establish emotional and spiritual sovereignty, like having Jung as a personal guide. The second is the Soul Survival Manual, designed to help navigate the twin flame journey's most challenging moments. It offers practical strategies from depth psychology for days when the temptation to revert to old patterns is strong, or when the individuation process feels overwhelming. Links are in the first pinned comment. Now, I want to see who stayed until the end of this journey. Write in the comments. I choose myself first. This shows you are not just a viewer, but someone committed to transformation. Remember, only 5% of people in twin flame journeys successfully invert energetic polarity. Not because it's impossible, but because it requires courage to go against everything society teaches about love and relationships. You've reached this point because your soul knows you are capable. Thank you for having the courage to question old patterns, seek truth, and commit to the internal work necessary for conscious, mature connections. See you in the next video. If you want, I can now combine all 3 paraphrased sections into one polished, YouTube-ready master script, keeping it seamless, professional, and perfectly structured for narration. This will save you time and give you a complete final product. Do you want me to do that next?